Good evening, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Just an average guy, and these are the Average Guy Chronicles. This is my first video for this channel. I plan to discuss topics that your typical guy would talk about with typical life experiences. I'm average in the sense of my capabilities, motivations, and aspirations. I have big dreams like anybody else. That's pretty average. Now, my mindset and philosophies may be gravely unique, but my execution is fairly average. I smoke cigarettes sometimes. I can abstain if I feel like it. Might in the future, stop smoking. Drink alcohol sometimes. I've experimented with some types of drugs. Nothing too extreme. And I found that I'm a cigarette and coffee tea type guy. I wasn't exactly sure what I should record, so I just kind of have a blank screen for now. If you hear a bell in the background, that's just my cat. Pay no attention to the curious kitten. I suspect she says hello. Or feed me, or follow me, or what's up. Back to the subject at hand. My first video. I didn't really have a topic of discussion in mind. I dabbled with the idea of life during pandemic and my opinions upon the COVID and how the society seems to be handling it on a national and international level. Can't say too much about international because I live in the States, and outside of the States they're doing things pretty differently in different areas. So I could comment on the stuff that I've been listening to via podcasts and other forms of media, which I may. Just depends on where it goes from here. This is a thought and action experiment where I publish my inner workings and opinions of external workings for all the world to hear. I'll probably have videos with actual content visibly in the future, but right now this is the best bet because protecting privacy and all that stuff. I want to make sure that I do this within reason try not to get too personal with my conversation, as to respect anyone who would be involved in my life that wouldn't want me to expose any details of anything, protection for people, because nowadays information in the wrong hands tends to be misused, and people are pretty sensitive about certain topics, and this is the best way to kind of keep everything anonymous, per se. If you're still with me, kudos, because this is pretty much just a rant at the moment. I might have some golden material here shortly. I'm a pretty funny person in general. I was thinking about, like earlier talking about COVID, and then I kind of come up with the pun of Novid because, censorship, you can't talk about it really without, all kinds of disclaimers. So you may as well not talk about it because they're going to put their little damper on it. But I like hearing opinions, whether they're emotional or rational, because within emotional responses, you can find root reasons behind it that could probably solve some problems. Right now, I am smoking a pipe that I got from a tobacco shop downtown, filled with American Spirit organic tobacco. Truly, I'm not a very big smoker. I just started smoking like when I was 19, 20-ish, somewhere around there, and not really smoking that much. And then I went some years without smoking, but I've been doing it a little bit more frequently due to stressing situations at work and things like that, and how the pandemic has caused work to be a little bit more uptight. Just for a little general insight to the life of the average guy. I'm sure a lot of people can relate. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I'll do my best to keep your interest piqued and roused with stimulating conversation and thought-provoking commentary. My philosophy for life, I think that's a pretty deep subject. If I could put a face value on it, a face value stamp for first video, that would probably be a good subject to touch on. Personally, I, at this current moment, would identify as pantheistic in my beliefs, which means I believe that all beliefs have some merit and that they are all interconnected in the oneness of everything. I have my personal preferences of Christianity and Hinduism and Buddhism and Zenism and Tao philosophy, mysticism, things like that. I generally tend to lean towards mysticism because it sounds cool, and it puts a more open spectrum of viewpoint for me, so I can just kind of like say I like mysticism, and people be like, oh, that's a thing. Christianity, I fall back on because it's very, very popular and it can be very relatable. I believe in it moralistically and symbolically, like literally. Nah, I'm not too shabby on literal things, literal translations. I translate it the way that I see it. And I listen to some like strong perspective points from people like Jordan Peterson and I don't really get too much religious perspective from too many people, honestly. I listen to just anybody that'll talk about it because I'm fascinated with spirituality and I'm open to any belief. I appreciate you for having something that you believe in, and those that are more defined in their beliefs, more power to you, more respect, because boundaries are very important. And I mean, if you have too much wiggle room, you can hurt yourself. So with my philosophy, you got to be careful, or rather, I got to be careful if you want to use proper grammar, which I'll probably have a lot of grammatical errors in grammar that I'll be working on. I'm going to improve in that. I'm going to have fluent grammar as time goes by. This is literally a complete free flow take at the moment. I like doing free flow because it helps me improve my ability to talk openly and freely without having to think about it. Because I think I spend most of my time thinking when I'm not talking, so shit, I may as well utilize the spontaneity of it and get better at thinking on the go, thinking while talking, thinking while doing, being in the moment. It's good practice. I guess I could kind of touch up on my perspective on the COVID situation because we don't have too many people talking out about it. Anti-vax or pro-vax? I'm neutral. Like personally, I'm a naturalist. I believe in naturopathy, however you say it, and eating healthy, exercising, and being mindful of what goes in your body and how you use your body and your external environment, being mindful of respecting it in a natural fashion. Scientifically, vaccines and stuff have efficacy. I mean, there's a lot of data that shows that and evidence and what do they call that when you make testimonies? I know the word, but it's eluding me at the moment. Allegory or something like that. I'll get the exact word and I'll probably use it again in another video at some point. Testimonies is good for now. What would you like to know? If you have any questions that you would want answered pertaining to personal opinions or curiosities of any random subject, I'm pretty good about answering them or at least giving you my point of view. As far as the government's concerned in COVID, at least in the States, I believe they could handle it better, for sure. And there are a lot of people that I talk to that strongly disagree with what's going on. There are a lot of people that are scared of the pandemic and it causes them to be incoherent when I communicate with them about things, and they don't seem to grasp things in the way that makes sense to me. So I find myself asking a lot of questions that tend to be avoided and redirected. So getting solid answers from scared people is a task. I try to approach it in a calming manner and get people's clear thoughts on it. It seems like a lot of people nowadays are used to being doing what they're told by the authorities. And I respect authorities. To the extent that I believe that they're respectable, to the extent that they oh goodness, it's such an easy word. To the extent that they show respect for others. Yeah, I believe respect is earned via respect. So it doesn't matter what a whole bunch of people think. If you don't show me direct respect, then I'm going to ask you more questions and keep on pushing the envelope. I'm compliant to things that I believe in, and I stand up for what I believe in. If being told to go against my beliefs, I strongly question the motives. I come off as a little aloof to my peers, but this is more of a facade, for lack of a better word, in order to keep the peace. I will state my position on things that are important to me. And I will also listen to differing opinions because this will help me verify what actually is important. Because just because it's important to me, that could be subjective, and you've got to also balance the objective with the subjective, personal with impersonal or commonly agreed upon. But just because it's commonly agreed upon doesn't mean it's objective. Yeah, so you gotta be precise with your terminologies when communicating, and also make sure that someone's on the same page. Because you can say something and know what you mean. That doesn't guarantee that others know what you mean. So I like to ask questions more than make statements, because that reveals that we're communicating the same idea. I've oftentimes found myself getting into trouble making statements and thinking that we were on the same page, or thinking that we were on a different page without actually clarifying. The easiest way to clarify is, how do you mean? What do you mean? What's going on? There seems to be a disconnect. What can we do about this? Stuff like that helps a lot. Living through a pandemic is a fascinating experience. I mean, life is a pandemic, so I mean, if you look in a certain direction, you'll find pandemic. So you could argue that at any point in time, any point in history, you're living through some serious stuff. We just so happen to have a name for the thing that a common enemy to target called COVID-19 at the very moment. We just got to be careful that we don't focus all of our energy on that, which, I mean, statistics show, based on rough estimates that I've heard here and there, that it's somewhere around a 2% uh, mortality rate. I guess that would be the accurate way to describe it. So it's reasonably dangerous, but not like just oh my goodness dangerous. And it seems to be pretty consistent within the 1.5 to 2% range. And it appears as though it may be tapering off a little bit, tapering down, because people's natural immunities actually build up, which is a thing. Natural immunities are a legitimate source of overcoming ailments. And they're probably one of the strongest. Our bodies are very adaptable. And the science backs that up too. I'm not just talking out of my ass there, but don't take my word for it. Always do research. Anything I say is from my limited perspective. So always do research if something sounds funny, or feel free to ask me. Because I do talk on my ass sometimes. As an average man, average guy, there's a lot that I can learn. And I like to learn every day, so the more questions I'm asked, the more my brain gets tested. And the more questions I ask, the more my brain gets tested. So, yeah. Win-win. Ask a lot of questions. Make sure to act on things that you feel, your gut feeling. Trust your gut. That's been adapted for some years now. It's touchy to dig into the pandemic. It's touchy to dig into specifically COVID-19 because there's a lot of censorship on it. So I've got to be mindful of what I say. I personally have a gut feeling that there are mechanisms in play behind the scenes for something different or something totally unrelated to COVID, that they're using COVID as a ploy or a smoke and mirror tactic to implement these behind the scenes agendas. And that's as much as I'll say on that, because I really have no education or credentials to pursue that with any merit. It's just my instinct, my gut, and what I've noticed in the fields and areas in which I've researched. I work an average 8-hour job, have a average family dynamic, or at least so I would refer to it as average. I won't go into details on that because that involves personal information that I pride myself in protecting. Omicron, I guess is how you say it, the new variant. I'm optimistic about it, truthfully, because it seems like it spreads more easily, but it's less severe, which, if you look at the science behind it, wherever you can find legitimate science and legitimate data, it indicates that people will be able to develop an immunity to a virus that is more contractable but less dangerous. And that's with or without vaccines. So that's good. Studies do show that people that are vaccinated have a higher resilience. That's what the data shows. And with my limited knowledge, I'll take that for a reasonable explanation. There are also plenty of studies that show that there are some potential vaccine related injuries. So be mindful of that too, because you got to be aware of what you're getting yourself into. And that's the science that they need to be more transparent about. They need to, inform us of the risks as well. And that's one thing that kind of makes me hesitant in fully adopting the narrative that our nation is pushing. I just try to pick and choose my battles and follow what I believe and feel is most correct in that. And I respect anybody's decision to agree or disagree with me. And I can learn something from everybody. So please be open and express if you feel the need to. I'm here to listen, and I'm here to learn, and I'm here to help where I can. I'll privately comment specifics for anyone who reaches out, and my opinions and my ideas towards things. I'm relatively healthy at the moment. I can jog like 6 miles and still have pretty good breath, so I consider myself in good shape. I eat well. I'm predominantly vegetarian, moving towards whole food, plant-based, because it's better for your body's digestion primarily. That's the reasoning for it. It helps with digestion and bodily function. The body naturally detoxes. I'll put an asterisk there because this seems to be underplayed by the medical authorities of the types of food you eat do affect your body's ability to detox, to function properly. So it is important to pay attention to what you eat, how you are eating, and your types of exercises for your body to fully function at its maximum capacity. So eating certain foods that, quote unquote, help detox the body is a legitimate thing. The foods themselves don't detox the body, but they give your body the tools that it needs to do it more efficiently. And foods and breathing and exercise and mental thinking patterns turn on and off genes. It's epigenetic. Your genes that develop cancer and stuff are turned on and off by what you eat, how you exercise, how you breathe, and how you think. Your thoughts can literally cause you to have more or less cancer, just your thoughts alone. So there's a lot that plays a part in it. And that goes down to energy, because thoughts are energy. Thoughts create emotions, which are energy, and energy is what makes everything happen. Good energy tends to have good results. Bad energy tends to have bad results. I enjoy philosophical thinking. I dive in as deep as I can, as frequently as I can. So I've got a good tolerance for managing my breath. And breath work is a key component to good health. Smoking cigarettes is questionable in that regard. I have my own mental bias. I believe as long as my mindset is in the right place, I can optimize the benefits of it while minimizing the drawbacks of it. But there still are drawbacks and compound over time. You've got to be mentally and physically aware. And that's a strong physical factor. So I can't just overcome all physical factors with mentality. That's naive to think that way. It's about balance. And I'll leave you on that note with something to ponder about. How to get your mental, emotional, and physical energies in balance. And this has been a session in the Average Guy Chronicles, pilot episode 1. Thank you for joining me on my nonchalant rant. Hopefully, you'll be back for the next one. Until then, have a beautiful day. Take care.